Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Photogs channel. And it is February 27th, and I did something last night, I should say, rather out of character. So I love new camera gear, and even though I do talk about the fact that, gear is secondary, skills in photography are primary, I'm also the first one to buy a new camera when it comes up or it's new or shiny or it's like, okay, let's try something new. So as soon as Olympus had available the pre-order for the OM-3, I ordered mine. So I was very excited to get it. And then I got a notification that, that my order was about to kind of finalize and it would be arriving this coming Monday. Well, that made me think. It's like, why am I ordering this? And I know probably many of you are having the same issues in your mind thinking about, like, do I get the OM-3? Do I not get the OM-3? What should I do? I want a new tool. This looks really cool. I love the retro. There's so much to it. I'm gonna just do it and buy it. So what caused me to change my mind and cancel my order for the OM-3? Now, I might change my mind, and once there are a few used ones on the market, maybe I'll turn around and pick one up so I can do a review and talk about it. Because out of all the OM-3 videos you see out here right now, what annoys me more than anything else is someone to do a review on a camera that they had not used or touched, they've just read about. To me, that's ridiculous. Because how can you review something you've never even held in your hand? And so I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about why I didn't buy it. It's not that it's a great camera. Olympus wouldn't bring out a camera like this if it sucked. I'm sorry, they wouldn't. There's got to be... This is a great tool. It looks wonderful. It's got some really, really great specs on it. But do I want to drop my hard-earned $2,000 practically to buy one? Well, I ended up saying, nah, I'm going to cancel the order. Well, why is that? So let me go through, give you my thought process of why. Nothing against Olympus. I love Olympus cameras. In fact, I didn't think about it, but I've got an OMD Mark IV that my daughter is using. That's kind of her camera, and she loves it. And I have borrowed it from her a few times to shoot with it. And I love the feel of the camera. I love that retro kind of feel to it. I love some of the settings on it you can use. Very simple, very compact, and great. But back to it. Why did I decide not to buy myself an OM-3? So the first thing off is I already own real retro cameras. Perfect example. Here's my favorite camera of all time. The original film Pen F. And this is an incredible camera. The original Pen F was basically a 35mm half-frame camera. As you can see, it's a tiny little thing. It's got a great sounding shutter, if you can hear it. Oh, just sounds so good. And what it does, it's a half frame. So what it did is it took a vertical 35mm frame. So it took a 35mm frame of film, basically cut it in half and made it vertical. So this camera, if you want to shoot horizontal photos, you have to turn it this way. It's a really unique little camera, but it's one of my favorites. And as you can see, I have some great lenses for it. I have this wonderful telephoto, and this is just, you don't see too many of these. You can find them on eBay if you already have a Pen F. Has a little built-in lens hood, which is just awesome. I wish more companies did this, actually. And very simple. This is a 100 to 200mm lens. Of course, remember, this is in basically a half frame, so it's more powerful than it actually is here. And then I have this wonderful little 25mm lens here. Oh, this is rolling off. We'll just put it over here. And then on it, I've got a 38mm, which is kind of like the standard lens for it, a lot like Micro Four Thirds. So I've got that there. If I don't want to shoot retro in that way, well, no problem. Here's another retro camera that is very OM-3-like that I can use. And this is one of my favorites. It's the Pentax. It's an ME Super. Great camera, bulletproof. I've got great lenses for it. Works great. You want retro? There you go. Toss a roll of black and white film on it and go for it. And same thing, I have lots of lenses for this guy. I have, you know, the typical, pretty much for all my retro cameras, I have like the basic 3 combination primes where I have a wide angle, I have a normal lens, I have a mild telephoto. So it's usually in 35mm equivalents for all of my retro cameras I own. I usually have a 28mm lens or a 24mm lens. I have a 50 or usually about a 40, somewhere around in there. And then I have like an 85 or 135 or a 105 telephoto. I usually always have those 3 lenses if I have gotten a retro camera that I've chosen to keep the body on. And let me tell you, I've got a lot. I've got this one, I've got here, I've got this wonderful, another great one too. If you're into retro cameras, pick up a Nikon, the original Nikon FG. This is another film camera, not digital. But same thing, works like a top. It's older. If you want to put a motor drive on it, you can. So if you want to not have to advance the film, you don't want something a little more interesting. That's kind of fun to do on these old Nikons. Same thing, lots of lenses available, a lot of things available. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but even when I owned my camera store, I would take like trade-ins from cameras we would get. And let's say if I had already too many on my shelf, too many used cameras, I would take those used cameras, I would sell them to a company called KEH. Now, at the time, they were out of Atlanta, Georgia. I forget where they're out of now. They've moved. I don't remember where they're located now. Maybe it is Atlanta, Georgia. I don't remember. But KEH.com is a great source for used camera gear. So, and I want you to think about this a minute. If you're looking into the Olympus OM-3, you've got $2,000 to spend. You get a body only, let's just say, for $2,000. I want you to go to KEH.com, and I want you to see how much real retro camera you can get for $2,000. You'll be surprised. You can get a whole lot of camera for $2,000 when it comes to an older film camera. Now, same thing, maybe you don't want to deal with film. That's fine. I still enjoy film photography, but I have the advantage of still having access to a full darkroom. So if I want to develop my own black and white film, or if I want to print my own black and white film, I can. So, and I know that's not everyone has that chance and that opportunity, but that's there. So that's one reason I didn't get an OM-1. And that is, I already own lots of retro cameras. I mean, this is a very small sampling of my cameras. And there's nothing more retro than shooting film. And you know, there's an enjoyment about it. So if you're wanting a tool that is retro in nature to help invigorate your creative juices, I would recommend grab a film camera, shoot some film. Because again, you can buy a lot of film camera for $2,000 on the used market. So please don't put that aside. So that was one of my decision-making tools. The other one is I basically already have a brand new Lumix G9II because I really was enjoying the Lumix cameras, and I have I love Leica cameras. I have 5 or 6 old Leica rangefinder cameras, and I'm talking about very old, and I enjoy those cameras very much. But I really love Leica lenses, and that's really what sparked my love of Leicas was their lenses. Now, I really can't afford to go buy a digital Leica. I just can't. You know, I'm a retired camera store owner. I still have a full-time job working at a local high school as their kind of IT administrator, which I love. I got to keep busy, so that's one thing I'm doing. At the same time, too, I am not going to go drop $11,000 on a camera. That's just not feasible. Even though photography is an extremely serious hobby of mine, and I love photography, and I kind of miss being in that business. At the same time, I can't justify spending that, especially when I have so many cameras already. So this is how I decided to go as well. Okay, so here's my Lumix G9II. I am still learning how to use this camera. I've owned it for, let's see, I've owned it since November. So I've owned it about 6 months or so now. Well, 4 months, 5 months. But I've owned it a good amount of time, but I'm still learning this camera. I'm really familiar with Sony because that was my primary camera I used while I was still in the camera business. I used Canon and Sony at the time. And I know Sony's really well. So I'm still learning the Lumix. At the same time, this is a phenomenal camera. And what do? I go buy the Leica lenses for the Lumix. And I know there are arguments about, well, they're not real Leica lenses because Leica didn't make them. Well, no, they're designed and they're manufactured under Leica specifications. So make no bones about it. These are exceptional lenses. They're sharp, they're clear, they have great contrast. They still are top tier lenses in every way you look at it. So to me, that's not a drawback at all. And I originally picked up, what started my Lumix journey was actually, well, I'll go back, was my daughter's Olympus. So we bought her an Olympus D, it was Mark IV, as kind of she wanted her own camera. So that's what we bought her, and she loved it. Well, I started using it a few times, borrowing it from her, and loved it as well. And I loved the Micro Four Thirds. Smaller, lighter, more convenient. So one of the reasons I went from Canon to Sony. Well, this was just another jump down in sensor size, but not in usability. It did everything I needed to do. I don't work in low light. I'm typically doing vacation or fun photos. Occasionally, I do a paid job for photography for individual, specialized clients, and I still do offer that on my website where I'll do portrait sessions, things like that, but to a very limited number of clients. And then I bought myself basically a G7 Lumix. Loved it. And went, oh, I've got to have more of this. So then I bought a G9, also in the used market, and then pretty excited about that. And then when the G9II came out, I went and bought this. Now here's the thing. So I have my G9. I have a couple lenses for it. I have the basic Leica kit lens. Well, it's an upper level kit lens, but it's the 12-60, and it's the 2.8 to f4. Phenomenal lens. There is very little I can't do with this one optic. It's just amazing. It's incredibly sharp. I've never been disappointed. It's never let me down. And then, of course, I added a few to the camera bag here. The other one is the 50-200, also the Leica. Some people call them Panaleikas. I don't know why, but basically the Leica optic for the Micro Four Thirds, and this is the 50-200, another exceptional lens. So right there, in a 35 millimeter equivalent, I have from 24 millimeter to 400 with two lenses. Great. So what am I missing? Okay. So here's what I decided to spend my money on instead of an OM-3. Another Leica lens. So to kind of finish up my triad of favorite lenses, I picked up the Leica 8-18. Same thing, incredible lens. I cannot believe how lightweight and small this is. For an 8-18, I mean, this is a small lens. I mean, this is not pocketable, but it's a lot smaller than my Sony or even my Canon equivalents by a huge margin. And that really makes a huge difference in the shooting day, especially at my age. I don't want to have my backs and shoulders hurt when I'm done with a photo shoot or for a hike for the day. That doesn't make it fun anymore. So I'm really enjoying this. And same thing, I have a huge investment in Sony. I have primarily all Zeiss optics for my Sony, ranging from 16 millimeter to 85 millimeter. I have all Zeiss lenses. And then I have the great big Sony, gosh, I'm brain fade. I can't think, but it's their 600 millimeter lens. I have that for it. It's a zoom 600. And then I have the 70-200 f4. So I have lots of lenses for my Sony. But a lot more than these, of course. But with these 3 lenses, I have practically the same scope as I would if I bring all my Sony equipment. And if I were to bring everything in my Sony bag that would cover the same as these 3 lenses here, I have like a huge, Peak Design backpack. Not this little gray one, but the great big one they have. It's filled to the brim to get the same focal length range as I can in just these 3 lenses. So it's pretty easy for me. But at the same time too, because this is micro four thirds and you have that compactability, well, guess what? I got more stuff stashed in this bag. So 35 millimeter, 35 millimeter equivalent. Oh yeah, no, that is the 35. That's 35 1.4. Here's a 17 millimeter 1.4, and then I've got a 50 millimeter 1.2. Now, I don't know what you think about these lenses. Some, there's give and take on these, but these are the little TT Artisan lenses. Great little, incredibly made lenses. They're buttery smooth as far as focus, your aperture. They're wonderfully made lenses. And I'm kind of astonished because back in the day, you wouldn't find inexpensive lenses built like this. So I'm really impressed with these little TT Artisans. And they're fun to play with, and they're manual focus only, but they're so much fun to play with. And look at this. I can fit all this stuff in my Domkey bag. I'm a big fan of the Domkey bags. I used them a long time ago, way back in the day, and then they just kind of disappeared from my camera collection. I don't know where they went. Either I sold them or got rid of them or something. So I'm like, okay, where'd all my Domkey bags go? Couldn't find them anywhere. They're maybe up in an attic somewhere storing, well, more camera stuff. But so I went and bought one of the new Domkey F2 rugged wear bags. Love it. Now I got my phone going off. Sorry about that.
From Ava, going walking, didn't want.
Okay, we're going to cancel that. My daughter's letting me know she's going for a walk. But hey, why not? I'll throw that in the video anyway. So anyway, just so you know, with everything going on, and with the Olympus, and with Decisions, this is where I chose to spend my money, is right there. So this lens, I bought it new, which is pretty rare. Usually I try and pick up used stuff. This one I bought new, and it was about $1,600. So good value. So rather than buying my OM-3, I bought a different lens. And to me, that's a better value overall, because same thing, no matter what happens in camera technology, this doesn't go out of style. This does not, it has a much lower level of need to be replaced, I guess the way you'd say it. But that's why I chose to go on. And kind of here's the third part of, canceling my OM-3. And that is simply the G9II. Is the camera bigger? Yes. It has a really nice grip on it. Ergonomically, it's excellent. It's not as good as my favorite, Lumix G9, the original one, which I'm using to film this on right now. But you know what? I'm really getting to love this camera the more I use it. And you cannot deny the specs of this camera. It is absolutely amazing. With 25 megapixel sensor, with the updated autofocus system that the Lumix has, with its video capability, though I'm not a big video guy, the videos on this are exceptional from the other YouTubers who I've seen and do extensive pieces of, of that. So anyway, because of, I already have retro cameras, I'd rather spend my money on a better lens, and I already have a camera that has top-end specs in micro four thirds. At this point, that's how I came to the conclusion not to buy an OM-3. So that's kind of my brain pathway thought on this. I hope this is helpful to you. Sorry if I rambled a little bit there, because I usually do. Sorry. But I hope this helps you. Anyway, that's about it. I'll do another video focusing in on a little bit more on my new lenses and what I've been using, especially these TT Artisans. I want to talk about those and talk about my use of the G9II a little bit. So anyway, thanks a lot. Bye.